360. Even as the former president campaigned today for the Latino vote, new reporting came out on the contempt he allegedly showed toward the family of a murdered Mexican American soldier and their Mexican heritage. Also, his former chief of staff, retired General John Kelly, goes on the record detailing some of the stunning things Trump said to him about Hitler. Plus, if that weren't enough, all the rest of the news from the campaign now in its final 2 weeks, including former President Obama appearing just moments from now in Battleground, Michigan, being introduced by Eminem. We'll show you some of his remarks live. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. The New York Times is just out with a new interview with former Trump Chief of Staff General John Kelly. The bottom line, according to the Times, quote, in his opinion, Mr. Trump met the definition of a fascist, would govern like a dictator if allowed, and had no understanding of the Constitution or the concept of rule of law. Now, it comes hard on the heels of new reporting out today in The Atlantic on the former president's alleged affinity for or wish for generals who were like Adolf Hitler's generals, and his alleged contempt for the family of a slain Mexican American soldier. First, the New Atlantic reporting. Jeffrey Goldberg, Atlantic's editor-in-chief. Goldberg's piece is titled, Trump, I Need the Kind of Generals That Hitler Had. But he leads it off with a story of an Army private named Vanessa Guillen, who was bludgeoned to death by a fellow soldier at Fort Hood in April 2020. She was the child of Mexican immigrants. Shortly after her body was found, the former president invited her family to the White House, where he offered them help with expenses and talked to reporters about it as well.
And if I can help you out with the funeral, I'll help you out. I'll help you out financially.
I think the military maybe taking care of it.
Good. They'll do a military. That's good. If you need help, I'll help you out. Okay. If they need something, we'll take care. We'll make sure she is very respected.
Thank you.
Well, that was in the spring. Then, at a White House meeting, December 2020, and Goldberg's new reporting on it. Quoting again, at a certain point, according to two people present at the meeting, Trump asked, did they bill us for the funeral? Meaning the family, apparently. What did it cost? According to attendees and to contemporaneous notes of the meeting taken by a participant, an aide answered, yes, we received the bill. The funeral cost $60,000. Trump became angry. The article continues. It doesn't cost $60,000 to bury an effing Mexican. He turned to his chief of staff, Mark Meadows, and issued an order, don't pay it. Goldberg continues, later that day, he was still agitated. Can you believe it, he said, according to a witness, effing people trying to rip me off. Now, some of the people named in the reporting are pushing back tonight. Mark Meadows tweeting, quote, any suggestion that President Trump disparage Ms. Guillen or refuse to pay for her funeral expenses is absolutely false. He was nothing but kind, gracious, and wanted to make sure that the military and the U.S. government did right by Vanessa Guillen and her family. The Trump campaign advisor tonight had this to say about the alleged effing Mexican comment. President Donald Trump never said that. This is an outrageous lie from The Atlantic 2 weeks before the election. Now, the rest of the piece, in it, Goldberg details showing admiration for Germans in uniform, specifically generals, more specifically Nazi generals. Quoting again, I need the kind of generals that Hitler had, Trump said in a private conversation in the White House, according to two people who heard him say this. Quote, people who were totally loyal to him that follow orders. Now, the campaign tonight says the former president never said that. Goldberg also then recounts a conversation he had this week with former Chief of Staff John Kelly, a retired Marine Corps general who was Chief of Staff in Trump's White House. Quote, he told me that when Trump raised the subject of German generals, Kelly responded by asking, do you mean Bismarck's generals? He went on, I mean, I knew he didn't know who Bismarck was or about the Franco-Prussian War. I said, do you mean the Kaiser's generals? Surely you can't mean Hitler's generals. And he said, yeah, Hitler's generals. Just moments ago, the New York Times posted clips from 3 new interviews with General Kelly. In it, he does not specifically refer to Jeffrey Goldberg's new reporting, which was in The Atlantic, but he confirms previous report that the former president had made admiring statements about Adolf Hitler. Kelly also told the Times that in his opinion, Trump met the definition of a fascist and would govern like a dictator if allowed.
Well, I'm looking at the definition of fascism. It's a far-right, authoritarian, ultra-nationalist political ideology and movement characterized by a dictatorial leader, centralized autocracy, militarism, forcible suppression of opposition, belief in a natural social hierarchy. So certainly, in my experience, those are the kinds of things that he thinks would work better in terms of running America.
Joining us now are former Maine Republican Senator William Cohen, who served as defense secretary in the Clinton administration, also CNN political analyst and retired Army Lieutenant General Mark Hurley. Secretary Cohn, first of all, what is your reaction to this new reporting in the Atlantic and also the Times interview?
Well, you have to put it in the context of what the former president's been saying publicly. He has indicated he'd like to be a dictator on day one. He's indicated publicly in the past he would like to have my generals. He's indicated throughout his administration he puts a premium on loyalty, not to the Constitution, but to him. He believes not in the rule of law, but in the rule of order. Order without accountability, without the rule of law. So I think you put it in that context. This is not a new revelation, but it is a continuation of who he is in character, in terms of his professed beliefs. And so I think we have to take Mr. Goldberg from the Atlantic, and I certainly support General on this in terms of what his comments are directly, General Kelly. So
Yeah,
we'll have to take for others to comment differently, but that's my impression.
Yeah, Lieutenant General Hurling. I mean, in the Atlantic piece, former president, according to Jeffrey Goldberg's reporting, Trump talked glowingly about the loyalty that Hitler received from his generals, and Kelly confirmed this, reportedly said, I need the kind of generals that Hitler had. Now, Kelly didn't confirm that part. Kelly confirmed that Trump had talked to him about, and that Kelly had talked to him about Hitler's generals. Kelly went on to say that he had pointed out that some of Hitler's generals tried to actually assassinate him. That apparently that didn't have much of an impact on Trump. Trump's campaign has denied any of this, that he ever said that he wished some of his generals were like Hitler's generals. As someone who served almost 40 years in uniform, I mean, what do you make of, first of all, the integrity of General Kelly in terms of statements that he would make about what he heard directly, and what do you make of the statements by then President Trump, allegedly?
Anderson, both of the articles, and I just finished reading the New York Times article interview with General Kelly, both of the articles reflect a pattern of things that we have seen over and over again with Mr. Trump, both when he was in office and when he's out of office. And in fact, I would suggest the Goldblum article didn't cover everything. The mention, the comments about, or what Mr. Trump did when he was president in terms of pardoning war criminals on several occasions, on insulting various people. It didn't cover all the bases. So the article was staggering in its length and what it mentioned, but it seemed to fit the pattern of things that we've seen Mr. Trump say publicly. In terms of the recent article, the one that was just published with General Kelly, you know, General Kelly and I served together in Iraq. We were both division commanders at the time. He was in the West and I was in the North. We conducted operations together. The integrity of General Kelly is at the forefront, in my view. I know him pretty well. And the fact that he's commenting on these things right now and really taking an extra step in saying, yes, these are all the things he said, certainly to me are much more valuable than anything that anyone on the Trump campaign would say to disavow these kind of actions. We know these things happen. We have seen Trump say these things. And again, I go back to the fact that it kind of reinforces a pattern that we've all seen publicly with Mr. Trump.
You know, Secretary Cohen, we've had, Trump acolytes, supporters on the program who have, denigrated any of the generals who have come forward saying, oh, they liked them when they were in office, when they worked for him in the White House. As soon as they leave, suddenly they're saying bad things about him, implying they have some, reason to be doing this other than feeling they're speaking honestly. You're friends with General Kelly, I understand. Why should people believe him? What do you make of him agreeing to come forward like this and, talking about Trump meeting the definition of a fascist, which, by the way, is backing up something that Trump's, top general, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Mark Milley, has said?
Anderson, I think we first have to consider that the code of honor in the military usually deters any former officer from speaking out, certainly while he's in active duty. But once retired, they do not want to tarnish the relationship between civilian life and the military. They are very, very reluctant to say anything of a critical nature. And that's why it makes this so unusual, that General Kelly is willing to go on the record. There are others who've been less willing, but nonetheless, I have talked to a number of 4-stars. I have several 4-stars in my own office. I know what was going on in the Pentagon in terms of their relationship with the president. And so for General Kelly to speak out, he's saying, I served with honor. I believe that it's important for me to speak out now at this time when so much is at stake, that we have a person who has indicated that he has authoritarian instincts, passions, and dictatorship friends, that he might in fact become president of the United States and occupy that position of commander in chief. We really can't afford that. We shouldn't want it. And anyone out there listening ought to listen to the people who have put their lives and limbs on the line, like General Hertling, who served in the Clinton administration. He didn't serve President Clinton. He didn't serve me. He served the country of the United States. That's the pledge he took. That pledge of allegiance, not to the president, to the country. And that's why I think the generals are speaking out now.
Lieutenant General Hurley, I mean, that's one of the things that General Kelly talked about in this Atlantic article, sort of Trump's surprise that the generals actually are not swearing an oath to the president, that they are swearing an oath to support and defend the Constitution. I want to play something else that Kelly told the New York Times.
If he was left to his own devices, would he be a dictator if he didn't have people around him?
Oh, I think he'd love to be. I think he'd love to be just like he was in business. He could tell people to do things and they would do it, and not really bother too much about whether what the legalities were and whatnot.
It's remarkable, General Hertling. In any other time, if you had the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the former chief of staff of the President of the United States coming forward, both respected, highly decorated career military people who, as Secretary Cohen is saying, follow a code of generally not speaking out. If in any other time this occurred, people would, in the past, this would be a death knell to any candidacy. I don't know that it'll have any impact whatsoever. It seems like everything is baked in. There's nothing that the foreign president can say that will turn off his supporters. Do you agree with Kelly? I mean, do you think this will have any kind of an impact?
I don't know, Anderson. It hasn't certainly had an impact so far. But one of the things I'd like to reinforce what Secretary Cohen mentioned is the fact that Trump doesn't understand the U.S. military. He doesn't understand the dictates of our government. In wanting to be a dictator, in any country where there's a dictator, the military serves that dictator. In the United States, the American way of war, the American way of the military, is to swear the oath to the Constitution, a piece of paper that represents ideas. There is no other military in the world that does that. Other militaries swear to defend the motherland or the fatherland or the king or the queen. We swear to defend a piece of paper, which includes the rule of law. Mr. Trump obviously doesn't want that. He wants the military to swear a loyalty to him, and military individuals, those who wear the cloth of the country, will not do that because they understand what our nation and our values are all about. That's the key difference. But again, Anderson, going back to your original question, if we haven't seen it yet, I'm surprised because this is what former President Trump has been doing all during the time he was in office and all during the time he's been campaigning for office. So if we haven't seen it, shame on us.
Secretary Cohen, General Hertling, I appreciate your time. Joining us now is our